Waste Not, Want Not, and today we're going to be preparing chicken marsala with leftover rice medley that I've kind of tweaked up a little bit, and pepper salad made out of red and yellow peppers and onions, and we'll get into that in just a minute. But the marsala, we're having a dinner party tomorrow, and I'm making it for 10 people. Now, in making this meal for 10 people, I'm going to be able to do it for right around $13. That's for the whole meal for that many people. So that's a pretty good price. And that's one of the things we want to stress with Waste Not, Want Not is pricing and using our leftovers. So I'm going to show you how I pounded out my chicken. I bought chicken tenders. They happen to be on sale, and the easiest thing to do is to use paper. I've got freezer paper here, so I'm going to use that. I'm going to lay out my chicken tenders onto the paper. And remember, when you're working with chicken, you have to be very, very careful so that you keep your hands nice and clean and keep your area clean, because it can cause contamination. So I've got 3 pieces left. I'm going to get rid of that in just a minute. We'll fold this paper back over, and the reason I'm using this paper in that big of a piece is so that it doesn't splatter all over the place. Now, I've got an iron skillet, and this is how I smash my chicken. We'll take 2 or 3 hits and we'll be done. Okay, and we should be nice and flat. Yep, see, nice and flat. Makes it paper thin, so we'll be able to put that right into our flour mixture and brown it in the skillet. Okay, we've got our area nice and clean, and we're ready to start flouring this chicken. We're going to take 1 piece at a time, and after I'm done flouring it, then I'm going to go back and wash my hands once again to get all those germs off of it. We'll dredge it into our flour. What I've done is I've used organic flour, and this organic flour has got a little bit of seasoning in it, a little bit of garlic salt, a little bit of Old Bay, but not very much, but enough to start seasoning this chicken. I'm going to shake off all the excess, because we don't want this really heavily floured, because once again, this is for calorie-friendly chicken marsala. And I came up with this recipe because my kids absolutely love chicken marsala, but they don't want the calories in it. So I've taken out a lot of the butter, but I've not lost the flavor. All completely floured, and we're letting it rest here for just a few minutes, and we're going to go ahead and assemble our pepper salad and dress it out and have it all ready so it can sit there and the flavors can kind of meld together. I've got red pepper and a yellow pepper. I've got some of that already chopped up, and we're julienning it and making it just in little tiny thin strips. About maybe a 1/4 inch, maybe an 1/8 inch, whatever you prefer size-wise, but I've cut it in half so that it'd be bite-sized. And we'll put that into our bowl, and then we'll get it all assembled. So we've got this little bit of pepper yet that we're going to get chopped up and into our bowl. And with that, we're going to, again, I veined this. I'm going to take out the rest of this white vein because we don't want it in there. It doesn't look very nice. We're going to get that out of there. Okay, and then we'll finish chopping up the yellow pepper. Now, also what I've got that I put with it is just a little bit of cilantro so that we can make it real colorful, and it also brings in another flavor yet to the salad. I've taken half of a sweet yellow onion, and I've got that already cut up in a baggie here. We're going to get this thing assembled. Show you how it goes together. Very simple. Put it into our bowl. See how pretty that is? I chose this purple bowl to put it on because it'll even make it pop, the colors pop even more. Simple bowls, whatever you've got around the house, doesn't matter. But we're going to do that. We're going to put our cilantro in there, sprinkle that in, and we're going to add our onion. Now this onion also, I've cut it into quarters, and I've pulled it all apart so these pieces can kind of just mix in. I'm going to mix this all with my hands, and then we'll put the little bit of Parmesan cheese on it and put the dressing on it. It's really simple, but totally delicious. You can salt and pepper it closer to the time that you're going to serve it. If we put salt on it now, though, it's going to pull all of that moisture out of these vegetables, and we really don't want that to happen right now. So we'll put salt and pepper on it right before we serve it. And you can grind your pepper and salt over the top of it. See how pretty that is? All those colors come together, and it smells really good too with that cilantro. I used about, a good couple tablespoons of cilantro. If you want to use more, you can, doesn't matter. But this is a really inexpensive salad, and it's a way to use up those leftover peppers that I had from last night's dinner, which was stuffed peppers. And also with that, we're going to have a mixed rice. This is an organic rice. It's a mix of a whole bunch of different grains, and I sauteed some onion and some celery and some garlic and chopped up some almonds and cooked it in chicken broth. So that was my stuffing for my peppers last night, along with some ground meat. And I've got some leftovers, so we're going to have that alongside of our chicken marsala and our pepper salad. So we've got this all assembled. I'm going to sprinkle on the Parmesan cheese. And you just need a little bit. It just kind of pulls all those flavors together. So we're just going to sprinkle it lightly with that. And then balsamic vinegar. We're going to drizzle. Or you can use a red wine vinegar, whichever is your preference. But this is a little sweet, so it kind of pulls the flavors of those peppers. And we're going to just drizzle a little bit of that over the top of it. Probably about a tablespoonful. Doesn't need very much because that'll really, those flavors will all come together. And then we're going to just drizzle this with olive oil, just like so. And our salad is ready to go. Okay, we're ready to get our chicken browned up. In fact, it's actually going to cook all the way through because you only need about 1.5 minutes on each side because we pounded this chicken really thin. So we're going to put this in a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and it's extra virgin olive oil because it has the least amount of calories. Again, calorie friendly, and it will give it a really good flavor. To spiff it up a little bit, we'll use a little bit of the spray butter instead of real butter. Actually, real butter is better for you, but we're going to use the spray butter because of the calories. So we'll get our chicken into our skillet and get it browning. Hear that sizzle? That's what you want to hear. Show it to you in just a minute. As soon as we get it all turned, we'll get this chicken into that skillet. You don't want to crowd it, so you only want to do a few pieces at a time. So no more than 4 into a skillet this size because we want to make sure that it gets good and crisp and brown. We're also, after we're done doing the chicken, we're going to do our mushrooms. Now, I went ahead and got my mushrooms already pre-sliced. You can do that. They happen to be on sale. That's the reason I got those instead of the whole mushrooms. It takes about 1/2 pound of mushrooms in this recipe for feeding 4 people. We're going to preheat our skillet again to medium-high. In fact, it's still pretty hot from that chicken. We want to use that same skillet because there's drippings in the bottom of the skillet that we're going to use that will help season the mushrooms. Now, just to make this a tiny bit rich, I'm going to use 2 tablespoons of butter in with my olive oil to brown these mushrooms because we want to get a nice brown look on these mushrooms along with the olive oil and the drippings from the bottom of the pan. So, I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil to this, and as soon as that butter is melted down, I'm going to put those mushrooms in because I want this skillet to be really good and hot. It needs to be good and hot so that it'll sear those mushrooms and give them a really pretty color. We're ready for our mushrooms. We're not going to put all these mushrooms in at one time because we want to get a good brown on them. So I'm only going to cover the bottom of the skillet, let those brown, and then I'll transfer them into another pan so I can do the next batch. So our skillet is ready. Hear that sizzle? That's what you want to hear because you want them to get good and brown. So we want that sizzle in the bottom of the pan. We really do. Now we're going to add our marsala wine. We're going to use 2 3/4 cups because I've got so many mushrooms in there. So we've got 1 in, and we'll add this second 3/4 cup. And then this has got to come to a boil and kind of boil out some of that alcohol. It'll just leave the sweetness of the wine in with the mushrooms. And you see it's starting to come to a boil. We'll let this sit and simmer, and then we're going to add our chicken broth, and we'll be ready to put our chicken back in and serve it up. The chicken broth to this, we added our chicken, and now we're letting it thicken a little bit because the flour that was on the chicken is actually going to help thicken our sauce, and we don't want it to be super, super runny. Now, this isn't a thick gravy. It's more of a sauce. But remember, you need to taste it to make sure that you've got enough salt and pepper on your chicken and in the sauce. So the marsala is complete. We've got it plated and dinner is ready to be served. Our beautiful salad of the mixed peppers and onions and cilantro, our chicken marsala, and our rice medley. And we did it for a really reasonable price, and we're going to serve 8 people with this, and we'll have even more leftovers.